This is CBC Here and Now.
The leaves are falling, the temperature is dropping, but the political heat is intensifying as the campaign enters the homestretch.
So I believe on October 14th we will win a majority government.
I'm Terry Roberts in Grand Falls, Windsor, and I'll have more on what the PCs believe is a mounting wave of political change in this province.
And I certainly believe education, it's the road to every bit of success that we can get in this province.
Just a few days shy of Election Day, John Hogan came to the town of Lewisport to make an education announcement. That's just ahead.
I'm Colleen Connors in Port Basque, where big changes are coming for the district of Burgeo-La Poile. It's been a Parsons for 26 years, and that's about to change.
A great campaign. I've loved every visit, I loved every door knock, and I still have a lot left to go yet until Tuesday.
I'll break it all down for you. That's ahead.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. A fire early this morning in Natuashish has flattened the Band Council office. The Mushwa-Innu First Nation office is destroyed just after council elections. Here Now's Daryl Din has more from Labrador.
A fire overnight broke out at the Mushwa-Innu First Nation Band Council office, completely destroying the building. The fire comes just hours after the council posted election results on Facebook late last night. Newly elected Mushwa-Innu Band Council Chief Patricia Andrew posted on Facebook. What happened last night was wrong and not the kind of news anyone wants to start their day with. Our community has been through enough, and the violence will never solve anything. Former Mushwa-Innu Band Council Chief John Newey spoke about what he saw this morning.
It was still burning when I went there around 6:30 this morning, and there were firefighters there, fire truck, and a lot of volunteers with it. Even the RCMP were helping out. There's absolutely nothing left, only that, burned right to the ground. I was shocked when I heard about it. It was, we just had an election there. Results came out last night, and it was supposed to be an eventful night for our new chief.
The fire department and the RCMP were still on site this morning. The fire is under investigation. Daryl Din, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
A mother living in St. John's says her family has been waiting almost 2 years for major repairs to their Newfoundland and Labrador housing unit. Jessica Aylward says the condition of her home is unacceptable and she doesn't know where to turn. Ryan Cook reports.
There's more patchwork than paint on the walls of Jessica Aylward's public housing unit. Dozens of plastered mounds line the walls of her living room and hallway, an amateur effort to hide holes revealed when a heat wave began to peel the paint off the walls 2 years ago.
I have a daughter that is nonverbal and autistic. She had been picking at the paint on the walls and eating it. So my idea was to scrape the rest of the paint off the walls and just repaint it over. It's problem solved. As I took the paint off the walls started basically crumbling underneath everything, leaving holes everywhere.
Aylward says she put in a request for repairs about 20 months ago. She's still waiting for that to happen. In the meantime, she's paying out of pocket to fix things herself.
I've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I mean, that's money that's then taken away from my children because I don't have an income. I'm a student right now. And having a special needs child is expensive as it is.
In a statement, Newfoundland and Labrador Housing says in general, some residents are on the hook for routine repairs, while others are classed as urgent or non-urgent, with the latter being reviewed periodically to ensure they're being dealt with in a timely fashion. Aylward says hers should have been dealt with long ago.
I mean, the social aspect of it is hard. We can't have family or friends over. We can't really sit in the living room and enjoy time together. It's constantly worrying about things around you.
Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, to the election now. Surrounded by party volunteers, supporters and candidates, today the NDP held what it says will be the last major election campaign event of the 2025 provincial election. Leader Jim Din says the party hopes to increase the number of seats in the House of Assembly. The NDP had 2 seats before the election was called, with Dinh representing St. John Centre and Jordan Brown in Labrador West. However, Brown is not seeking re-election. The party is now running a full slate of 40 candidates and has released a fully costed platform. The NDP hopes if it doesn't form the next government, whichever party does form the government will adopt some of their solutions to make life more affordable.
Your vote matters, and if you don't believe me, you just got to remember Jordan Brown when he was first elected. He won by 2 votes. Do not stay home this week on election day and say, well, we know you've got this. No. Get out and vote, and make sure your vote counts. And if you want the change, make sure that the voice you're choosing is an NDP. We're ready.
The PCs are heading into the campaign homestretch with rallies in multiple communities as they make their way across the island. Here now's Terry Roberts has the latest.
If Tony Wakeham was feeling any fatigue from this exhaustive campaign, he likely received a recharge on Thursday and Friday. Energetic and confident crowds had the PC leader pumped as the campaign enters the homestretch.
This election isn't just about change, it's about building a better, brighter future for all of us.
More than 60 people filled a room in Clarenville Thursday night to welcome the leader. Another boisterous crowd Friday afternoon in Grand Falls, Windsor, to hear Wakeham talk about his plan to lower taxes, improve health care and public safety. And they were filled with confidence and conviction.
I'm concerned about the future of our province, the MOU, and I believe that we need to change the direction we're going.
I think we need a change. We just need to get some new things happening, some different ideas, and like they say, you know, change is always good.
I've never been a political person. However, I have had some dealings with Chris Tibbs and his team, and it just swayed me.
Chris Tibbs is the man. He's the man for the job, and let's get it on, PCs. This is the year. Let's do it.
3 PC incumbents here in Clarenville, their leader, and a political upstart who's running in a St. John's district. This outspoken incumbent hosted the rally.
So I believe on October the 14th we will win a majority government, and I'm not so certain that the Liberals see what's coming.
And in Grand Falls, Windsor, this incumbent is confident of re-election following a fiery Wednesday debate, arguably the edgiest moment of the entire campaign.
I am who I am at the end of the day. I am who I am. I make no apologies for anything. I make mistakes just as much as the next guy, but I stand by everything I've said and everything that I've done.
Thursday's campaign event in Clarenville was the kickoff to a multi-day blitz that will take Wakeham and his campaign team all the way to St. Anthony and finally to Wakeham's home district of Stephenville, Port-au-Port, where he'll finally find out whether his call for change will resonate with voters. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
The Liberal campaign traveled east today and made a stop in central Newfoundland, where John Hogan unveiled his plan for the education system. Here now's Enrique Wilhelm reports.
Schools like this or that were the focus here on Friday when John Hogan made a quick stop to reveal his plans for a better education system.
Education, it's the road to every bit of success that we can get.
And so Hogan promised funding, hiring and educational changes. That includes another 100 new hires over the next 2 years, including teachers and student assistants, on top of the 500 positions already pledged in this year's budget. Where exactly they'll go, though, is to be determined.
Once that gets through the budgetary process, we'll make sure that the right resources are in the right schools for the right students.
As for them, they can expect new mandatory classes on civic education and financial literacy and on Indigenous history and reconciliation.
I can't remember ever learning about any Indigenous groups in our province when I went through the school system, and that's terrible. So I've had to take that on myself, but wouldn't we all be much better off if our kids learned it in kindergarten and grade 1 rather than when they're 40 or 50 years old?
Hogan also addressed life at school. He said if he's elected, the cell phone ban will stay in place, and he would work with police to prevent violence, a concern at many schools.
So how do we address that? I don't think we want to police our schools. I don't think we want RNC and RCMP in the schools. So we're not there yet, but we need to make sure that we prevent any issues from happening, and that's certainly working with the students and working with the communities and the teachers and working with our police officers here in this province.
And there was something in it for post-secondary students too. A Liberal government would offer a one-time moving allowance to students from rural regions of the province, starting at Memorial University or the College of the North Atlantic. Eligibility will be income-based, with details still to be nailed down.
So we'll look at the distance for that. We probably won't have to be too far outside of St. John's if you're moving somewhere to get an apartment into the city or to go to the College of the North Atlantic, and make sure that it is income tested. It's not. It's for people who do need that $500. We'll come up with that threshold as we work through the process.
Hogan also addressed the proposed curriculum changes for junior high students that was on the table earlier this year, but postponed due to the feedback that was received. Hogan said there is still a need to modernize the curriculum and its review will continue, but he didn't give a specific timeline. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, Lewisport.
To other news now, 3 Newfoundlanders remain detained in Israel after Israeli forces stopped their flotilla trying to deliver aid to Gaza this week. Meanwhile, 3 other Canadians from that flotilla have been released and are safely in Istanbul, waiting to fly home. According to Palestine Action YYT, today one of the detainees' aunts spoke to CBC Radio's On the Go.
Sadie would be very upset with me if I didn't start by saying that while we're very concerned about Sadie, Nikita, and Dev, that they would want us to also make sure that our concern extends to all the friends, family, and volunteers, and the people of Palestine. That's really what this is about. So, but yeah, when's the last time we heard from Sadie? There's been no news since yesterday. What we know is that the team in Palestine, they were met. Sadie was visited by one of the members of the legal team there. She appears to be doing okay, considering the circumstances that they are being detained under. There's hundreds and thousands of people, especially here in Newfoundland, that are attempting to contact various levels of government, and the responses often that are being received back are very generic. In my opinion, they're very generic. There's not a lot of people, they just keep saying that they're talking. But, Sadie, Dev, and Nikita are still sitting in a detainment center that they shouldn't be in, and we know that we know for sure that the treatment hasn't always been good to people who are being detained there. So.
Well, today we heard closing arguments in Robert Belbin's murder trial. His lawyers say it was self-defense, but the Crown painted a very different picture. The CBC's Julia Israel reports.
Closing arguments were made to the jury today for the trial of 24-year-old Robert Belbin, accused of second-degree murder of his friend Seamus Secord. Belbin was charged in February 2023 for the incident that took place near Newtown Road in St. John's. During closing arguments, defense lawyer Jason Edwards made the final case that Belbin acted in self-defense. He said that at the time, Belbin was aware that Secord had been convicted multiple times of assault with a weapon and utterance of death threats in the past, and was aware of his violent tendencies. Edwards said that on the day of the incident, Secord accused Belbin of stealing drugs from him, that Belbin left Secord's home promptly, but that after a short phone call between the two of them, they met back up minutes later when the fight occurred. The defense said Belbin had to fight for his life if he wanted any chance of survival. Crown prosecutor Paul Thistle argued that Belbin had the intention to extremely injure and cause death to Secord. He argued that Belbin's testimony of grabbing a knife out of Secord's hands in seconds was implausible, especially given that Secord was an experienced fighter and that Belbin had no defensive wounds. The Crown argued that Belbin stabbed Secord 10 times in places known to cause serious harm, like the chest, the heart, and lungs. In the courtroom today, Robert Belbin listened intently and did not react emotionally. Seamus Secord's mother wept quietly as the lawyers described the details of the altercation leading to her son's death. The jury has been dismissed for the long weekend and is due back in court Tuesday for final instruction from the judge. Julia Israel, CBC News, St. John's.
A, B, C, anything but conservative.
There are things that the federal Conservatives have stood for, including the removal of that emissions cap. Do I agree with that? Absolutely.
The relationship between the provincial PCs and the federal Conservatives has changed a lot over the years. The CBC's Mark Quinn will take a closer look at those Conservative connections.
It is time for the weather. Carl is out and about.
Yes, there are a lot of folks here in the Avalon Mall cinemas playing chess.
How do you do, sir?
Well, they haven't always gotten along, but the relationship between the provincial Progressive Conservatives and the federal Conservatives has definitely improved in recent years. So as the provincial election campaign continues, will that hurt the PCs or help them win more votes? Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
There was a time almost 2 decades ago when the provincial Progressive Conservatives and the federal Conservatives were definitely not friends. Former PC Premier Danny Williams was angry, and he called out the federal Conservative government and Stephen Harper for breaking a promise to give Newfoundland and Labrador oil revenues. Williams called on voters in this province to give the Conservatives a goose egg in the next federal election.
Vote A, B, C, anything but Conservative.
But those days are long gone, and the current provincial PC leader has a very different message.
There are things that the federal Conservatives have stood for, including the removal of that emissions cap. Do I agree with that? Absolutely. Do I agree when they talk about the development of our offshore oil? Absolutely, 100%. Did I agree with the removal of the carbon tax? 100%. So there are lots of things that we agree with and that we'll continue to fight for.
A Conservative insider in this province told CBC that many people who volunteered for the Conservatives in the last federal election are now volunteering for the PCs. And it's not just volunteers who are working for both parties. The PCs are getting help from someone who organized events for the Conservative Party in its 2025 federal campaign. But when asked, Louis Lopez said he doesn't work with the federal Conservatives now.
These are two parties that probably should sort of logically have a connection.
Political scientist Kelly Leduc says it's not surprising that federal and provincial Conservatives are sharing campaign strategies, staff, and volunteers.
If we think of the PCs here, they are sort of a major party, but slightly right-leaning or right of center. And federally, it's the same thing, right? The Conservative Party holds the same position. They both have the same color. Historically, the Conservatives federally they were the PCs as well.
PC candidate Tina Neary says that as she campaigns door to door, it's clear that many people are having trouble distinguishing between federal and provincial parties.
So what it is, it's more so the confusion about, am I there to represent municipal? Am I there to represent provincial? Or am I there to represent federal? Right? And so when I go through and I'm basically kind of giving education to the process. And so explaining each level of government and where their elections have stood and where I fit into all of that.
You got to take on all the people in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Williams rejected the Conservatives when they were unpopular in this province. But now Leduc says there are clear signs that confusion about who's who could help the PCs win votes.
We actually saw that the Conservatives federally have started to really make inroads in the province. They won 3 seats in the last election, right? There was a long period of time when they really didn't see any success, but now they're very competitive in the province. And so if we now know that voters in the province are willing to vote Conservative federally, then the PCs really should be getting on that bandwagon. They should be making those connections and using as many people and connections as they can to figure out who will vote for us and why.
Still, Leduc says the PCs are taking a risk if they're identified too closely with the Conservative Party and its leader.
The evidence is that also that Poilievre himself is not a particularly popular leader, even if the federal Conservatives are a popular party. So I think what they do is they try to find the parts that are winners and try to avoid the parts that are losers.
And that could be why Wakeham is setting some boundaries.
We are our own independent party. We're the Progressive Conservative Party of Newfoundland and Labrador, and we have mutual respect and relationships with all, but we have our own constitution and we will continue to be our own political party.
Provincial election day is Tuesday, October 14th. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
In other news, a 37-year-old man had his license suspended yesterday after he was caught driving 167 kilometers an hour on the Trans-Canada Highway. RCMP Traffic Services East observed a pickup truck doing 167 in a 100 zone before 6:30 yesterday. An officer stopped the vehicle and the driver was ticketed for excessive speeding and issued a 7-day suspension under the Highway Traffic Act. The RCMP is reminding the public that it will be conducting additional patrols and checkpoints this long weekend as part of the nationwide Operation Impact. For a lot of people, this is a long weekend. I know I'm hoping to get out for a hike. The question is, Heather, are we going to have good weather for it?
I think we will have some favorable weather over the weekend. A few showers tonight into tomorrow. Let's take a little bit of a look at the weather that is on the way for your holiday long weekend. We'll have some clouds and some showers, or a chance of them, tonight. Tomorrow we'll have some sun and cloud in the east, but we will see some showers for parts of the northern peninsula with some increase in cloud there as well. Sun and cloud on Sunday. Monday, your holiday, also looking pretty nice there as well. Taking a look at today's highs, you know, in the single digits for the most part, with the exception of Labrador West at 12 degrees and Port aux Basques at 11. So a much chillier day than we have been seeing at the beginning of the week for certain, where we had some of those record-breaking temperatures and it was just so warm. Our temperatures today down by as much as 9 degrees in St. John's and on the Avalon as well. Chillier, same with the Burgeo-La Peninsula, but slightly warmer for some areas of the province. A cooler day today as well in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Taking a look at our satellite radar, talking about the showers that we are going to be seeing into this evening. Already starting to see some of those for parts of the west coast and into the northern peninsula there, with some cloud cover also moving across the island. Taking a look at our future tracker now. So we're seeing this same system here that's bringing some showers to the west coast and to the northern peninsula. That's going to move across the island tonight, bringing a chance of showers to some places. They will taper, so this will be, of course, moving from west to east. Seeing a little bit of precipitation here for Labrador West as well as we head into the early morning hours. Things starting to clear a fair bit, especially for the island, though, as we head into early Saturday morning. So a nice Saturday morning in store for you as well, watching this band of precipitation, of course, across the big land there as well. Taking a look at tonight, our temperatures all down into the single digits for the most part, anywhere really between 3 in Labrador West and 9 for the Port aux Basques area. And we could see some of those showers, of course, on the west coast, and we could see some for Labrador as well, where we saw that band of precipitation. Our winds westerly or southwesterly tonight, 30 to 50 in some areas and a little bit lighter in some other areas. Taking a look at our future tracker tomorrow morning, we see the cloud here over the island, and it's going to be a pretty decent day. Some increase in cloud moving over as this band of precipitation starts to head towards the island as we head into Saturday, which could bring another few showers our way from east to west, of course. Taking a look at our provincial forecast now for tomorrow. Not a bad day in store for the province tomorrow. Temperatures for the most part into the mid-teens, 14, 15 degrees on the Avalon, some sun and cloud, some increasing cloud as we head westward, where we could pick up some showers for the west coast. Temperatures just a couple of degrees cooler over there on the west coast and up on the northern peninsula as well, where your cool spot will be Port aux Basques, St. Anthony area at 10 degrees. On up to the big land now. Everything down into the single digits. Clouds for Happy Valley Goose Bay and out to the coast, but a nice day at 5 degrees in Nain. We could see some precipitation in Churchill Falls and Lab City. That could be a rain or a flurry. I'm going to have your long-range forecast, and we'll talk about what's ahead a little later in the show.
Thanks so much, Heather. We're heading into the last weekend of the provincial election campaign, and one thing is missing. There's been no public polling during the campaign. So what do we know about how the parties are actually doing? Well, Alex Marland is a professor of political science at Acadia University, and he joins us now. So, Alex, what do you make of the fact that none of the polling companies, at least up until now, have released anything during this campaign?
It's completely baffling to me. It is so odd. We live in a world where public opinion research is getting easier to do. It's less expensive than it used to be. When we look at the federal election campaign, there are polls on a regular basis, way more than there ever used to be before. In Newfoundland and Labrador, when I worked there, I studied the public opinion polls and how they were, political parties were releasing and timing their news announcements around them. I mean, it's just everything has changed, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
Narrative Research put out a poll. It was done back in August, but they released it during the campaign, showing that the Liberals had 59%, the PCs at 35%, and the NDP at 19%, with a margin of error of 5 points. How much bearing do you think that this has, if any, on the election campaign and what we're seeing right now, right before Election Day?
Well, they have a bearing in that it tells us what people were thinking back in August. Does it tell us where things are today? No. It means that it does tell us that there's not, a huge anger and massive mood for change. The Liberals have been in power for 10 years, and that would be coming out. And I don't even get the sense that that's really part of the theme of this particular campaign, that people are itching for change. But one thing that we can rely on is the federal public opinion polls, which do have some bearing. So what we've been seeing is that the gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives federally has been tightening, and the NDP has been gaining a little bit federally. And often that's an indicator of where things are in Newfoundland and Labrador. Not all the time, but it can tell us that probably what's happening is the Liberals don't have as much support as they did in August, and the PCs and the NDP probably have more than they did back then. Now, on the other hand, the gap was enormous. So if we were to look at the August poll, we would imagine that there would be a Liberal majority government on Election Day. But anything can happen at this point. It's really hard to call.
The PCs during this campaign have really put the Liberals in their sights. They've criticized them a lot. In fact, I went through their platform. They mention Liberal more than they actually talk about their own party, the PCs. What does that tell you about where they think they are in the polls?
Well, I mean, I think it's, we can play, for a lot of us, we can try and figure out the strategy. Why are they talking about the Liberals? Why are they not talking about the NDP or issues? I think the bottom line is when you have a government that's been in power for 10 years, they're on their third premier, they have a long record, and that record should be front and center, and the opposition parties should be talking about it, and they should be critical of what the government has been doing. And equally, the Liberals should be out there saying, look at all the wonderful things we've been doing while we've been in government. So it makes sense to me that the Liberals would be mentioned quite a bit by their opponents.
Interestingly, when you look at the strategy that the Liberals have taken, especially compared to the difference between the federal campaign. During the federal campaign, there was a lot of criticism of the Conservatives, but in the provincial campaign, we don't hear the leader mention the Conservatives much at all. What do you make of the difference in those tactics we've seen between the federal election and now to the provincial?
In some ways, it probably shows that, there's a lot of things that you can interpret. But I mean, one immediate reaction for me is that the Liberals provincially are aware that Tony Wakeham is not sort of a pariah. He's not a big threat or worrisome boogeyman the way that maybe Ches Crosby was, that Pierre Poilievre, Stephen Harper, other Conservative leaders have been at different points in time. So I think, in many respects, they're just kind of focusing on what they're doing and trying not to elevate and give attention to Tony Wakeham.
Let's talk about the NDP. They're more organized than they have been in previous elections. It's the first time in a decade that they have a full slate of candidates in all 40 districts. What do you think that says about their chances on Tuesday?
Well, in some ways, it's a surprise because, the NDP has really been hurting, again, federally. So we would imagine that would translate to provincially. And it would be hard for them to be able to run a full slate of candidates. But maybe it says positive things about Mr. Din, who, from my perspective, he certainly held his own in the leaders' debate. And, for a lot of people, he can be fairly inspiring. He's saying all the right things. He's moving away from this sort of obsession that the NDP has had with identity politics, and instead talking about real things that matter to a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And so, that inspiration is probably a big reason why a number of people were willing to step forward and run, and that will translate into a strong ground game. The NDP is often good at mobilizing people at the doors, and that tends to be an advantage. When you're running candidates in every electoral district, you're going to get more votes than when you don't.
The question, I guess, will be whether the votes are in the right place to translate into seats, and we'll have to wait until Tuesday to see how all three of those parties do.
yeah, it's going to be a real nail biter, because when you don't, unless there's public opinion polls on their way, nobody can say with any certainty what the results are going to be on Election Day.
Well, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your insights.
All right, my pleasure.
Well, it's a vast rural district that's been represented in the House of Assembly by one family for nearly 30 years. But that's going to change this election. Here Now's Colleen Connors visited Burgeo-La Poile to find out how residents are feeling about this new crop of candidates.
For towns like Port aux Basques and the Burgeo-La Poile district, well, change is inevitable because there's been a Parsons as their representative for the past 26 years.
There wasn't a lot of Kings in Burgeo-La, so when I saw your name, I said, my goodness.
But new Liberal candidate Michael King is hoping to be that change. King is only 30 years old and has been working for Andrew Parsons for years. He's from Burn Islands, and since June, he's been making his way to all the communities on the southwest coast. He's confident the area is going to stay red.
You know, being from rural Newfoundland, a small community in this district, it gives me a very unique perspective on how things work in our communities. You know, access to healthcare, access to roads, making sure we get access to all kinds of services that need to be available to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. So, you know, having a strong voice, strong representation has been something that has stood here in the past, and I think I'm the one that can carry that tradition on.
PC candidate Victoria Young wouldn't do a TV interview with CBC, saying she started campaigning late and has a limited schedule. Business owner and party volunteer Greg Sheaves decked out his truck with her campaign signs.
People say, well, the new lady that's running for the PC party, well, she's not from here. But Andrew Parsons has been living in St. John's or Holyrood for the last number of years himself, so he's not here either. So we can have a representative from wherever. It doesn't make any difference where you live. So I think, you know, you can condemn the people that you've tried because you know their history, but you can't condemn someone that you haven't given a chance to yet.
NDP candidate Velda Tapp has also declined an interview. She's in St. John's. While candidates are busy campaigning, life in Port aux Basques is shifting. There are still signs of Fiona's damage, but the community doesn't want to be defined by that tragedy. People here want to see businesses flourish and services improve. Residents in this district seem to have the same issues as most of rural Newfoundland and Labrador. They want better roads and better access to health care. But one issue for people living in Port aux Basques is tourism. How do they get people to get off the boat and stay here and have their vacation here in this community? Craig Walters owns a number of pharmacies and restaurants in the district, and he's expanding, building a 13,000 square foot building for the new family care team, in a town he says is known as the gateway to Newfoundland.
We got a lot to offer, you know, we got the beaches, we got the ocean, we got the mountains, and all that, so we're in a good spot, I think, to attract the people if we do it right.
The owner of this hotel wants to see more support for staffing to better accommodate those tourists.
I never thought that I would see that, you know, we'd have the cut hours and see a shortage of staff. And for some businesses, they have to close early, close days that we shouldn't, where we're providing a service to, especially our tourists.
People from Cape Ray to Grey River can vote this coming Tuesday. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Port aux Basques.
With just a few days left to the provincial election, candidates are working hard to show they're the right choice to represent voters in the House of Assembly. On today's edition of Real Voters, Real Questions, a resident of Conception Bay North asks candidates about supports for seniors.
My question for the candidates are, how will you support seniors experiencing poverty and food insecurity and diminishing health care? Thank you.
So seniors are a large part of our population, and currently they haven't really been paid attention to. So that's something the NDP is committed to doing and ensuring we can provide the resources to seniors in order to support their income in terms of where they are right now, ensure they have access to medical care so they are able to afford their medication and get it accessibly as well.
Thanks, Ms. Turnbull, for the question. I mean, obviously our seniors have built the communities in which we all thrive in now. So we've got to do everything we possibly can. We've tied the seniors' benefits to cost of living increases through the national CPI. We've increased thresholds to try to help seniors stay in their homes if they have, so they can do the modifications and home modifications that they want to do to stay in their homes. We've increased the benefit by 15%. We've also done some things for the coast of Labrador to put seniors $500 in the hands of seniors to help offset some of those costs. And obviously the crux of our question is with respect to healthcare and ensuring they have access to good quality healthcare, which is important. The healthcare accord has done some significant improvements. There's a long way to go. It's a 10-year transitional document that we're working our way through, and we've seen some improvements. We know it's never fast enough. We're trying our best to move it as fast as we possibly can. We're committed to seniors. We understand how important it is for the fabric of our community.
Thank you very much, Sharon. We've talked in the House several times about the seniors and poverty and finding difficulty to make ends meet. One thing we looked at was the Newfoundland and Labrador seniors benefit, of which the calculator had the base amount, which hadn't changed since 2015. 10 years of inflationary pressures on seniors in our province. In fact, over those 10 years, there was over a 20% increase according to the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So if we didn't adjust at all the formula, we ought not to be surprised that seniors are finding it tough over a 10-year period where there has been no increase. Our party will increase by 20% the amount that seniors receive, and we'll index going forward. That 20% will make up for the last 10 years where we've lost track.
The ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas took effect today. Israel has partially withdrawn troops from parts of Gaza, and tens of thousands of Palestinians displaced by the war are starting to return to the northern part of the enclave. Officials say the UN is preparing to resume the delivery of aid to Gaza this weekend. Meanwhile, the Israeli military says its troops have withdrawn outlined in the first phase of Donald Trump's peace plan. Hamas now has 72 hours to return the hostages. Israel is then required to release Palestinian prisoners. Trump plans to travel to the Middle East over the weekend. At least 19 people are dead following an explosion at a military munitions plant in Tennessee. Emergency crews rushed to the scene but had to keep their distance because of secondary blasts. The blast was heard and felt far from the site. Local law enforcement officials are launching an investigation.
We got a very big investigation. This is not going to be something that we're going to be like a car wreck or something like that we're just going to clean up the debris and leave. We're going to probably be here for a few days.
The plant produces and tests explosives in the hills near Bucksnort, about 100 kilometers southwest of Nashville. They say it could take days to determine the cause of the blast. The local mayor has described the explosion as a tragedy for his community. Well, the latest data from Statistics Canada shows the Canadian economy added 60,000 jobs in September, beating expectations. The employment increase was led by full-time work. 28,000 jobs were added to the manufacturing sector, marking the industry's first gains since January. Increases were also concentrated in Ontario and Alberta. The unemployment rate remains unchanged from August at 7.1%. The jobless rate for young people aged 15 to 24 hit a 15-year high outside of pandemic years. CBC News.
It'll likely take a long time before all losses and damages in the area are known.
They want the aquaculture industry to stay where it is.
Residents here who had left while this was happening have been told they can't go back in.
We have a fine batch of people celebrating this week. Let's take a look at some of them. Happy 66th wedding anniversary to Matthew and Sarah Fudge, formerly of McCallum, now living in St. John's. Wishing Naaman and Doris Mooland of Mount Pearl a very happy 70th anniversary. That's a big one. Happy 62nd anniversary to Chess and Yvonne Jackson of Cavendish. Happy 59th wedding anniversary to Shirley and Len Hodder of New Bonaventure, Trinity Bay. Banfield and Eva Fudge, formerly of Ramia, now living in Millertown, celebrated their 61st anniversary this week. Maxine and Renee Fowler of St. Lawrence will celebrate their 60th anniversary this weekend. Congratulations. Happy 59th wedding anniversary to Joseph and Rebecca Brown of Northwest River, Labrador. Wishing Jean and Roy Burt of Glenwood a happy 59th wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary to Winston and Norma Wiseman of Musgrave Town, who are celebrating their 62nd wedding anniversary. Happy 50th wedding anniversary to Debbie and Wayne White, formerly of Mount Pearl, now living in Alberta. Marguerite and Brian Payne of St. John's were married 55 years ago today. Congratulations. Bob and Eleanor Chafe of St. John's are celebrating their 65th wedding anniversary. Happy 50th anniversary to Kip and Gloria Kaus of Kippens. Happy 56th anniversary to Celestine and Dorothy Clark, with lots of love from your friends and family. Happy 64th wedding anniversary to Ralph and Sheila Paul of Buren Bay Arm. Wishing Gussie and Marie Nash a very happy 52nd anniversary. Happy 63rd wedding anniversary to Wilson and Linda Hurley of Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 56th anniversary to Gary and Lucinda Holloway. Now to some birthdays. Happy 94th birthday to Henry Young of Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 90th birthday to Erla Butt of Swift Current. It's a big one for Annie Patey. Happy 100th anniversary. She's from St. Anthony. Abe Pittman of Deer Lake is celebrating his 94th birthday. Congratulations to Bill Oliver of Gull Island on celebrating his 90th. Happy 94th birthday to Ruth Maidment, living in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Happy birthday going out to Melvin Grandy of Garnish, who's celebrating his 99th birthday. Melvin now lives in Grand Bank. Happy 90th birthday to Garth Tiller of Corner Brook. Happy 93rd birthday greetings going out to Classy Marshall. She's from Port aux Basques. Big birthday greetings going out to Jane Dooley of Sweet Bay, now living in Clarenville, who's celebrating a huge one. Happy 103rd birthday. Happy 96th birthday to Cecilia Tracy, currently living in St. John's. Blanche Masters celebrated her 94th birthday yesterday. She now lives in Marystown. Happy 91st birthday to Olive Gill, living in Wesleyville. She's formerly from Newtown. Happy birthday to Marie Connors of Pooch Cove. Her turns 90 tomorrow. Happy 92nd birthday to Vera Smith of Elliott's Cove, Random Island. This is Vera enjoying the company of her 3 daughters and son. Happy 91st birthday going out to Iva Powell of Carboneer. Greetings to all of you. Heather's back here with a look at the long-range forecast, and I know Election Day Tuesday, a lot of people will be keeping an eye, and hopefully we get some nice weather there for everyone headed out to the polls.
Yeah, so our long range doesn't go out quite that far. We're just going to look ahead to the next 2 days, and we'll take a look at Election Day in our 5-day. But our look ahead for Sunday and Monday, beautiful days ahead. A nice stretch of weather on the way. Let's take a look and start breaking that down. We can see Saturday evening, we'll see this band of precipitation here. That's going to start to move offshore, and we'll just have some cloud in behind that. So it should be a relatively nice Sunday for much of the island. If we take a look at our temperatures here now, it's going to be really between 6 and 10 degrees for the entire province. Sun and cloud pretty well. behind that for everyone. So if you're going out to get some vegetables, or you're going to be going for a hike, like you said earlier, Peter, it's going to be an absolutely lovely day to do that. And I know a lot of people have Monday off as well. And let's take a look at Monday, because I think that'll be an even nicer day. We see that precipitation offshore there, and it's just really kind of a similar looking day, a little bit more of a clearer day though, as we head into Monday afternoon. Some cloud there across the big land, coming across the island as well. Temperatures warmer here, up into the double digits now for the entire province, really. 10 in St. John's, 13 through central Newfoundland and Grand Falls, Windsor, 12 in Lab West, and 10 in Cartwright. Lots of sun and cloud, looking like an absolutely lovely day ahead. Taking a look at our 5-day, I know everybody's anxious to talk about the weather for Election Day. It looks like we've got a nice stretch of dry, clear weather ahead. Temperatures between 8 and 15 degrees in the east. For central Newfoundland, the trend is looking very similar. However, it could get a little bit chilly down into the evening on Sunday and Monday, and picking up some showers there on Saturday for western Newfoundland. For the big land, it looks like we could see showers or possible flurries on Saturday. But for the east, a dry day on Wednesday, possible showers for Wednesday for western Labrador. And I'm going to leave you with this photo. And this photo comes from Labrador, and it's absolutely stunning. Look at that sky. It's got a bit of a spooky feel now that we are in fall. And this photo comes to us from Iris Allen. If you've got a photo to send to us, nlphotos@cbc.ca.
I love this time of year in Labrador. You get all those yellow colors from, you know, all the beautiful falls. It's the birch trees just turning. Lovely time. Well, that's it for us. Hopefully you get a chance this weekend to enjoy some of those fall colors. We are going to be back on the holiday Monday. A little shorter here and now. We'll be 30 minutes as we gear up for all that election coverage coming your way on Tuesday. That's it for us. Have a good night.